Hi everyone, I think we're live now. So normally no one is ever online when they're supposed to be. So we'll wait a couple of minutes for the stragglers. I think to kind of start off the webinar, what we'd like to do is actually start with a poll, just to get the kind of, get the creative juices flowing. And I think my colleague will be sharing that quite soon. I think it will be in the chat. Just to give you some context of what the poll actually is, the first question is, what is the most important factor to consider when looking for a new role? As it's probably come up there now, so that's perfect. So while we're waiting for people to join, obviously complete the poll and then we can move on. Obviously, I'd like to thank everyone for joining. We've got Jane Gormley from Code Institute, Jessica from Launch Darkly, and Julieanne, so thanks very much for giving your time up. I will allow you to do intros in a minute once we get everyone on board and get into the nitty gritty. So I think that should be enough time with everyone. So look, let's get the party started. So Soda Social, it's something that we're very passionate about, something that probably differentiates us to the rest of the market, in that we actually try to do something to foster, promote, and improve diversity within the workplace. We look at diversity across all kind of spectrums. It's not just gender-based, ethnicity-based, socioeconomic, obviously LGBTQIA, and a whole list of other stuff. So what we do is we want to be a kind of safe space to, attract people in. It's inclusion is the norm, it's not the exception. And that's kind of our motto behind it. How we do that is events like this, where we get, talented people on board to share their experiences. But we also run podcasts, on a bi-weekly, monthly basis. And that's right across the globe. So it's not just obviously Irish based, which is heavily focused today, but obviously we've got offices in London, Manchester, Berlin, LA, and Boston, and plans to take over the rest of the world as well. So I suppose the kind of lead up to this event is that we've actually partnered with Deloitte and Code Institute to run a hackathon for the Code Institute alumni. So I know we had our launch last night and we've got some VIPs on the line hopefully tonight. So what we wanted to use this event for was not only to inspire the wider market, but obviously get the creative juices flowing for the people that are actually participating in the hackathon this week. So for those of you that don't actually know who the Code Institute are, I've had a relationship with them probably since 2016. I think, that traditional method or model of going to college and doing a 4-year course probably isn't meeting the demand that we need globally, and particularly within Ireland. So they're the world's first credit rated coding boot camp. So I know they partnered, I think, with a Scottish university, and they're dedicated to, helping people be career ready and actually, mentoring them and bringing them on with real kind of career advice and stuff like that. So I've seen the courses, I've met so many, graduates down the years, and I've seen, the level that they come out at. So thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, thanks very much for Deloitte for sponsoring the event, and we'll actually be doing an in-person hackathon with them on Saturday, which I know the pandemic, when you think about it, was only in February when they actually opened everything in Ireland. So it's not too long ago that we couldn't even do that. So thanks, Julieanne and the wider Deloitte team, for obviously helping out with that. As you can see, the poll is actually just cropped up there. So the most important factor is actually mentorship and support, which I actually love, because we're going to focus on that at the end. I've been conscious that when we've been on events like this in the past in Ireland, there hasn't been really any substance and takeaways. So we will be discussing that and, giving some support to people that may be looking to come back into, careers, or, just looking to get into technology in general. So thanks very much for that. So just to kind of set the parameters around what we'll be doing here. So there will be a 45-minute discussion. We'll be focusing in on some stats and some questions. And then at the end, for around 15 minutes, there will be a Q&A session. So look, we want this to be as interactive as possible. We will get a chance to, ask the questions and get the answers that you feel is important. So do add it into the chat, and at some stage I'll collate that and, get the answers that you're looking for. So just to kind of jump into the intros, firstly, I'm probably the least important person on this call, but my background is I've been within the tech recruitment space for around 8 years now. started out in, funny enough, nursing recruitment, but I was way more interested in tech. So that's been my bread and butter for 8 years now. I fully focus on software engineering. I'm currently the business manager for Trust and Soda for Ireland. I suppose what my kind of passions lie in is diversity, CSR, and what we can actually do with our platform as a recruitment agency to help people in Ireland. I don't think we do enough to actually meet demand with Indigenous talent. So we need to look at areas where we can pull, further resources, inspire people to go towards technology. I've been through a recession, a pandemic, and if anything, I've seen technology just grow stronger and stronger. So instead of being in school, when I was being told to go and do civil engineering, we should have been told to do computer science, and no one would have been out of work during the first recession. So that's just a brief introduction to myself. Lastly, before we get into the actual interesting parts of this, is that we will be recording this event and we will be sharing it on our YouTube channel. So, if you miss anything or you want to, use it as a, touch point in the future, you can access that and all our previous webinars and podcasts. So we always look for followers. Join it. It's community. Get involved. That's the aim. So without further ado, I would like to pass it over. So tonight's event is obviously, closing the gender gap. It's something that I'm chatting about day in, day out with, our clients, our candidates, and I'm sure the panelists are as well. So it's so important. Look, we know there's not been enough done and we need to change it. And that's what we're here to do tonight. So I'm going to pass over to the legend that is Jane Gormley, just to give an introduction. So maybe tell us about yourself, what your role is, and maybe how you got into the world of tech, because I think that's important as well to know.
Yeah, hi Ronan, and hi everybody. Very nice introduction. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I'm Jane. I am part of the team at Code Institute. More specifically, I'm the careers director. And you gave a bit of insight there as to what we do in Code Institute. But yeah, we're an ed tech business. We specialize in training people to become software developers, and we do that in various different ways. But there's definitely a huge focus on kind of non-traditional methods and just helping people who are looking for guidance, mentorship, training to start a new career. And my role is to kind of help with that. So there's a whole support that function there around careers, and it involves a lot of different elements to it. One of which is very much kind of recruitment focused. So working with industry who are obviously furiously trying to hire new talent into the industry. And then on the other side, working really closely with people in a more mentorship kind of coaching way to try and help them do what it is that they want to do, but they're trying to do it in a really accelerated way. So that's kind of where I come into it all. And in terms of my interest in technology, it's a real gradual one. First and foremost, I consider myself a recruiter, and that's where I started. So that's my own background. The last 10 years have been in agency recruitment, and I suppose it was gradually, bit like yourself, I moved towards kind of tech recruitment. And then the coaching side of it, I love the recruitment industry. I love the opportunities that people get, but I also see that there's big gaps in how sometimes an industry talks to its target audience. And I suppose I'd love to play some part in trying to rectify that or improve that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say there is gaps with how they communicate. I think that's not just even to graduates. I think even at second level, the communication streams is, it's not where it needs to be. And it's something that obviously I get involved with, you do, and I know Deloitte and probably LaunchDark they do as well. And we will chat about support. So thanks very much for that, Jane. Next up is Jess.
Hi, thanks so much. Really appreciate the intro, the welcome, having me here. I'm Jessica. I'm a developer advocate at LaunchDarkly. I was really particularly interested in joining in this event because when I first applied to my job, I saw there was this paragraph at the bottom of the job ad that talked about the confidence gap, and I didn't think too much of it at first. It stood out to me, but then when I actually joined the company, I was surrounded by a lot of female engineers, and it was a really refreshing environment to be in. Particularly in the technology space. So I was really excited to kind of join Julieanne and Jane and just chat about what that means. But I'm a developer advocate, so I love supporting developers that use our product and products like LaunchDarkly, a feature management platform. I'm really active in the meetup scene. I love a good meetup. I think that's most people get. So I've been working on DevOps Days London, DevSecOps London Gathering, and Coding Black Females to try to kind of enhance spaces where people can just feel like they belong. Because I think you get a different type of burnout sometimes when you're in a space where you kind of are on your own.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I know we'll be chatting, later into the webinar about, obviously I said about the supports and some of the work you've done. So I think if you can share some of the experiences and some of the successes of actually being involved in some of those, meetups and groups, I think, I think it'd be very beneficial to everyone. So thanks for that, Jess, and we're delighted to have you. And then last but not least, Julieanne, and might I add, from the sponsor. So thank you very much. So if you can give us the intro and obviously maybe discuss how you, because I think from a discussion we had the other day, I think, you almost kind of fell into it. And, once you realize when you were in the door, you were like, oh, Jesus, it's not as bad as I thought it was. So
yeah, I'm here to tell the tale. So thanks, Ronan, and great to be part of the panel tonight with you all. So yeah, I'm Julieanne. I'm a senior technology manager in Deloitte as part of their consulting practice, in particular their cloud and engineering side. So my role primarily is in digital transformation. So I lead a number of programs of work and projects on the technology space within Deloitte, mainly in public sector. So I suppose I really enjoy my role. I'm with Deloitte 10 years and I joined as a graduate. So I came through their graduate program back in the day. And as you said there, Ronan, I suppose my career and how I've developed over the years through my role with Deloitte has been fantastic. But also, I suppose when I look back in my CAO, and I know last week the results came out at the Leaving Cert level, it wasn't my first choice at IT. I didn't know what consultancy was. I didn't know what the world of IT could be in terms of a career. So I fell into my degree course in DCU. I studied information systems in DCU. So through that college course and the placement that I got through that college and the experience I got in that placement led me to the career I've developed to date. And I'm really enjoy it. And I hope through this conversation, this chat this evening, I'll be able to help, demystify maybe the career misconceptions that are out there in the career in tech, the career in consulting, the type of work that I get involved in, and kind of help support people and kind of their choices that they might be facing now as they start out on their journey.
Oh, look, thanks very much for that. And look, we know what it's like. It's a Tuesday and we're asking people to give up an hour and a half of their time. So we really appreciate it. And no, it's great to get that insight. So we're going to jump straight into it. So I suppose when we came to think about the event, we thought about some areas that, we feel are important, and kind of crop up in our day-to-day lives, both in Deloitte, Launch Darkly, Code Institute, and particularly with every company that I work with. So I think, and obviously, Julieanne, you mentioned there the CEO, and it wasn't your first choice, and you fell into it, and like that's probably the same story with every recruiter I ever chatted to. They fall into things, but sometimes those kind of mistakes are the best thing that can happen to you. So the first point we kind of want to focus on is that entry to technology. How can we improve it? What are the challenges? So I have a couple of stats here that might just probably can shock some people, if I'm being honest, but it was reported by PwC that 3% of women say a career in technology is not their first choice. So it's literally just what you've said, Julieanne. Why do you think that figure is so low, and what do you think we can do to improve that? I can open the floor. Maybe if we go with Jess, or if someone else wants to go first.
Yeah, of course I can kick us off. I'm sure we've all got some takes on this one. I think a big part of it is also like you can't be what you can't see, and a lot of the times if you can't see people that look like you in a role, you think that it's not necessarily open to you. So you kind of can already kind of count yourself out of the race before you've even stepped up to the starting line. I don't know if that touches on any ideas that anyone has or any responses. That was my initial one, because I remember seeing women in engineering director roles, and I was like, this is a viable career option and can actually like last and climb throughout the ranks. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's so many stages with which, without realizing it, we are influenced and can be influenced. And I suppose like we were looking a lot at this over the last couple of years, and from an educational perspective, certainly here in Ireland, I wish I had the stats with me actually, but really early stage stuff in secondary schools around subject options, availability of teachers, and just the assumptions that presents yourself without even realizing it. So yeah, when I was 16 in school, there was no engineering options. The 3 science subjects, we were doing pretty well to have them, but there was no applied maths. There was no. I was in an old girls' school, and that wasn't that unusual. And from what I have read recently, that hasn't really changed a huge amount. I'm sure there's examples, but not a huge amount. So it's unlikely to think you're probably going to go on to your career or 3rd level training in whatever form that might take if you haven't been exposed to this at an earlier age. So I'd love to see some improvements around there. But I think what you said is so right. If you haven't got aunts, friends, mates working in that space, it's hard just to get those examples in front of you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even I think back, Jane and Jessica, when I was in school, and okay, it wasn't my first preference, and kind of I wasn't great at maths and still not great at maths, but that's okay. Look at what I've achieved without it. So it's definitely an area that needs to be improved. I think ECDL, the license that we did in school, was probably the only one that I had exposed to computers in the library for an hour each week. So I definitely think it's a space we need to, at the curriculum level in schools, it'd be great to see improvements, and changing it up from just maths and science to maybe the type of topics or the areas that we focus in now in IT, like user experience and design thinking, and bringing more practical to the type of products and tools that we use today, and how that's evolved rather than just purely maths, and how that applies into your career. So definitely I think there's room for improvement, but also innovation within the curriculum space.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of points that I've just obviously noted them down here, but I think, Jessica, you obviously talked about visibility, and I even think back to, the 20 for 20 in terms of women's sport. And now the knock-on effect of that has been is that RTE2, obviously I know this is a global webinar, but if we bring it back to local level here, everyone was watching the Irish women team, qualify for the first playoffs, and, it was in a packed stadium, and that is the visibility. I know Sky are doing a lot of work to get that visibility. So I think it's up to the tech world to be going in, showing success stories and skills. The second point obviously was around, we all had this maths fear. I don't know, maybe it was our generation, Julieanne, but it's built up. But I think there's so many different avenues to going into the tech world, whether it's PLCs, online learning. And it's not just, we mentioned tech, it's not just coders. There's so many different roles that you could go into. I think a business analyst, PMOs, testers, it could be pure sales, most of us are in, that you can actually build, long-term career within the tech space. So I think breaking down those barriers at a young age and in school is so important, and ultimately making it fun, because I remember what our curriculum was like. It was just do it, do your homework. But if we can get in and show that technology is so cool, robotics and what it can, lead to, it's probably the most interesting thing in Ireland, which I know we're all biased and we're all going to say that. But no, look, thanks very much for that. So the other thing as well, is obviously, making it more accessible. And I know I touched upon certain points to that, but is there anything that you've seen or you think, could actually make this accessible? Maybe not even just in schools, but, in terms of maybe career changers or, people returning to work. I think the stat was Forbes highlighted that the perception of the tech industry must change in order for women to be hired. And I think I touched upon some of that, but maybe I'll open the floor to yourselves.
Well, I might take this one because there's I'm in kind of a lucky position that I get to talk to a lot of people who maybe have already made the decision to change careers before I get to meet them, but they're still on that journey, and there are stages to that happening. And I think that from a recruitment sense, when people are kind of planning and considering this, it can actually be really hard to just get data? Like, where do you start? Where do you get this content that tells you that this is actually a viable option? And I think one thing that could dramatically change could be how job specs are written and how job ads are written. So, you know, a very simple thing. And some companies have started doing this quite well, but like, I still go to really comprehensive, you know, job pages on a company's, and it's like experienced hires, and then like newcomers. You're like, there's so many people in between who are well able to do so many of these things, but you're really detracting them already. So I think that there's probably some really simple changes that could be made at real ground roots level, you know, just how the tech industry talks about itself.
Yeah, 100%. That some of the terminology I always see, and like, there is actually websites that you can use to see, is it gender neutral, you know, language, but it's always strong experience, and words like this that automatically, you know, subconsciously put off individuals from applying. I don't know, maybe if Jessica or Julieanne, you want to follow up on anything there?
Yeah, we've got a series of we've just kicked off a returnship scheme with Coding Black Females, which is quite like a nice pathway like back into tech if you've been out for a while. Sometimes it can be really intimidating to get back into a field after you've taken, so it's particularly with tech because things move so fast. You know, if you disconnect from industry trends for like 3 months, you find out there's a new framework that everyone's using, and you're just like, great, okay, I need 3 years proficiency in Rust now out of nowhere. So I think like schemes like that make it a little bit easier. Organizations like Makers Academy working with government schemes to kind of help fund those places for people is really great, because not everyone can just you know, whip $8,000 out their back pocket for a boot camp. That's not that accessible when we really think about it. So I think like getting those spots funded is really good. And then also like specializing in them, because you brought up like BA roles, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily investigate those firsthand. Like when we think of cybersecurity, people just instantly think of penetration testing and red teaming, but threat intelligence is really cool, and you get to do a lot of actual coding in that sort of role. So I think like having like short courses that are like quite focused on things like Salesforce development, or just something that can give you like a skill that can help you stand out in those, like, to recruiters, and give you those kind of foundational, like, I'm just like highlighting a line item on this imaginary job ad. But yeah, Julieanne,
yeah, and you touched on something, and I suppose from my own experience, I suppose within Deloitte, I amplify a lot of the women in tech initiatives that we have, and one that came to mind there that we let out this summer, it was in partnership with Connected Women in Tech, which is an organization that connects a number of different companies like Deloitte together to collaborate to try and solve this and to help each other with encouraging more female into tech. Was our DCU stint internship. So this was in collaboration with DCU, where we supported I suppose pre-service teachers to work with us and join Deloitte and other organizations for 6 weeks paid internship to gain on-site practical experience with client work, to kind of then bring that back to the classroom, to go, okay, I'm a teacher, a STEM teacher, but this is what the career in consulting or career in IT looks like, and demystified that. So we had a great 2 summers now with teachers who joined us and were part of our team, became BAs, testers, and worked with us to learn the skills and to translate and support at that grassroots level to be more accessible in the classroom. So that's one initiative that we lead in Deloitte, and yeah, it was really good and really great fun, but also a real meaningful way to help support teachers to encourage their students at that level to careers in IT.
Yeah, I have to say that's absolutely amazing. That's the first time I've ever heard anything, you know, that kind of relevant. And, you know, I think we have to kind of think to the fact that sometimes it's not their fault that they don't know it. So it's up to us to kind of educate them and try and give them the tools to, you know, subconsciously or directly or indirectly, whatever they want to do, it, direct them towards it. But, you know, that's amazing. I'd love to share that around with every company afterwards, Julieanne. So thanks very much for that.
Yeah,
so,
great.
You know, like obviously in our role, it's the attraction of candidates and, you know, helping them get jobs and, you know, supporting them afterwards. But I think one of the biggest areas is actually the retention of talent. So is your culture set up for success to actually keep diverse talent? So I want to kind of move the topic onto that point now. So in terms of, you know, areas that can crop up, and I've had this with, you know, people, you know, that I've dealt with down the years, both male and female, but particularly I think on the female side is obviously the family aspect of it, and burnout. So what do or I suppose what can organizations do, or what should they be doing to try and prevent burnout, you know, in that kind of family aspect? Well,
I can kick off with one of the things that so with DevOps Days, we've tried to do, but we've done this for the past, I think, 3 or 4 years. I'm sure one of the members will tell me if I'm incorrect, so please feel free to to let me know if I'm mistaken here. But we have we always offer childcare with each event, and I think the idea is that by offering, no one thinks to ask for childcare, because at a tech event often, because you often don't think about whether or not you can bring your child. You sometimes just kind of think, I can't bring anyone to an event. So I think offering it can sometimes just help to help people to make that ask if they need that.
How do you do that, Jessica? So do you have you have minders there at the event? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Wow, cool. Okay.
So it's just in case, because every now and then, quite a few of our speakers are traveling during September when schools are back, and you can't necessarily. You've got your kids with you, so you kind of need to make sure that events are a little bit more set up for that. So that's one way that one of the groups I'm in tries to do it. But has anyone got any other learnings that they?
Sorry, Julieanne, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I suppose the way we work now, and I suppose the last 2 years, I suppose in particular, how we've adapted to hybrid working. And in Deloitte, we have a Deloitte Works policy. So we have rolled out new ways of working, and how, you know, flexibility is now fully built into our day-to-day. And we have a number of different policies and initiatives now to support working parents and family members and carers, to support them in their career. And it's very much been championed from top down, bottom up. And it's something that, you know, I find that's really benefited me, being able to work in my consulting role with my client full time remotely, or be in the office, and given that flexibility, which has been really great. And I think that's the way forward, and that's here to stay. It's how, you know, employers and employees like myself and everyone on the call, how you kind of communicate and work with your employer to discuss your needs and how they can support that. And definitely something that I've seen grown, and, you know, being more open, and we communicate more about, you know, once you're comfortable and you can trust in the conversation with your employer, it really helps. And having the policies there to support as well, the individual based on their needs.
Yeah, look, and I think that's why it's so important to kind of understand tech as a career, because ultimately it's not like, you know, working in a hospital where you know you need to be there at a certain time, you know, and it's safety critical. Like, realistically, if we can start our jobs at 6 a.m, we can do the work within those kind of 7 or 8 hours. So it is a really flexible career choice to go down. You know, particularly I've 2 young kids. You know, some days I need to collect them from school. You know, my partner needs to, you know, obviously go off and do her things and stuff like that. So you can work around. And I think what's important, you know, is that there is success stories and there is proof. You know, I don't want to say case studies because I hate that word, but, you know, you need examples, and you need to say, look, this is what we're doing currently, and people feel safe in that space, as you said, to communicate. And Jessica, I know you mentioned that obviously. I think the childcare idea is absolutely amazing, by the way. And, you know, I always say, like, you know, things happen with kids. You know, the best laid plans, kids will, you know, find a way to kind of come in and ruin them. But, you know, it kind of reminds me of that picture I seen on LinkedIn of a lecturer who was holding the baby while the parent was obviously doing the test or something like that. So I think, you know, most of us have, you know, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, whatever it is, our own kids. Like, I suppose everyone has been through it. You know, if you ask the question with your managers, you'll get the answer. And more often than not, look, tech companies are probably the most flexible businesses in the world. So honestly, that's amazing. The other thing as well is, you know, obviously tech can be seen, you know, and some organizations are very male orientated. You know, Monday morning, we used to call them the water cooler chats and stuff like that. And I always think back. So, you know, good company cultures is obviously paramount to supporting underrepresented. You know, obviously we're focused on gender here today. So what, you know, in terms of culture, can they do or business can do to support people like that and make them feel welcomed and retain them?
I think, sorry, from my observation in companies where you see this being done really well and you see this being tried, you know, there's sometimes there's a concern that maybe is this something that needs a huge amount of investment, but I see it's just a culture that, just like Jessica and Julieanne were saying, when it comes from the top and there's a sort of a mature approach to how you recruit and how you look after your people and listen to them, that just has such a huge knock-on effect when it comes to people's experience working there. And I think, you know, of course, there's a focus on trying to balance this out somewhat, but I also think it's really important that your managers are really well trained to interview in a way that is respectful of an individual, that understands that if there are not enough, for example, experienced female software developers available, that a much better investment of your company's time, longevity, and future-proofing it is to figure out maybe a training mechanism, you know, have a more open mind as to where somebody may have come from before stepping into the world of recruitment, because there's talent everywhere. Like, there's no shortage of people on this planet. And you know, there's a skill shortage for sure, but there are ways with which you can take this into your own hands. So when you see that repetitive cycle of always doing the same thing over and over again under panic, it just kind of suggests a lack of planning and lack of listening. So I think there's kind of basic things that nearly all companies of all sizes could start looking at. And the retention piece, again, it's good management. You know, you won't keep everyone forever, and you shouldn't expect to. You know, people's priorities change at different points, but really training your manager as well as to how to look after individuals in their team, I think has a huge impact on engagement levels.
Like, just on that, Jane, and I know obviously I'm probably preempting this a bit, so apologies, but I know that you've done a lot of work in the background on this, and it's something that, you know, to be honest with you, I feel quite passionate about, because I think back, you know, to my own days, and you see the big, you know, the big business, and you think, I'm not good enough maybe to be in there. And then once you're, you know, involved in it, you realize, oh, I actually really am, and everyone's coming from different backgrounds, and we're all pulling, you know, in the same direction. So imposter syndrome, I believe, is a big thing in the world of diverse hiring. Maybe can you tell us about, you know, some of the research, the facts that you found, and then, you know, obviously some of the takeaways from it?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned a couple of times, you know, we work a lot with career changers. They're doing things really quickly. They're moving into a brand new world. There's a lot of new stuff happening, a lot of unknowns. And obviously imposter syndrome is a real thing, you know, and it can really impact just how ready you are in terms of stepping into a new situation or kind of progressing to where you need to be. We have, within our team, we have you know, people within the team who are trained in kind of career psychology, and we have a qualified psychologist there. He just sort of looks at the way that we're talking about this and looks at how we help people who are taking those steps. And there's some really nice practical ways that you can do this. So I suppose if you look at it as an individual, you know, very high level stuff, be in a community, you know, start realizing that you're not expected to know it all, and look at your own progress rather than, you know, a big shining beautiful flashy multinational company who you think is full of geniuses. It's not. Like, it's just full of people, and they've all at different stages. So I think the community-based support is just such a huge part of reminding yourself of that, and you can give yourself confidence when you're contributing back to it. So yeah, little and often in terms of progress. And then again, as a company, I think, you know, really training your manager as well. You know, not everybody makes a good manager, and a manager should be there to kind of guide you, preempt, reward, recognize, and not just like once a year at your review. You know, this day-to-day interactions that are that you know somebody sort of has your back and is observing what you're doing can just really build your confidence. And internal mentoring, I think, works brilliantly. So mentors don't all have to have, 40 years experience. You can be a mentor at any point in your career. And I've seen those kind of things work really well.
Yeah, 100%. I might open it to Jess there.
I was going to say, Julieanne mentioned when we were chatting before about your mentorship experience. I wonder whether or not you wanted to talk about that. That was really cool.
No, thanks, Jess. Mentorship is something that I'm really passionate about, and kind of, when I look back to when I started my career in IT, maybe that mentor, that coach wasn't there. And then now, as I built my career in Deloitte and got my coaches and mentors, male and female, throughout my journey, such benefit to me. And now I'm paying back to choose some mentorship programs that I work with in Deloitte. So I Wish is one which is a good example where I took part. I was a mentor in their 180-day program, and this was to support students who are in their final year of college, and we are all assigned mentees, and it was to help support them in kind of where they would like to go in their career journey, help guide them. I met my mentee quite frequently and still kept connected with her, and it was just such a powerful thing to do. And an hour a month was the time commitment, but that hour was so productive and really helped her, and for me as well as a mentor, kind of provide some guidance, provide some insight, demystify, and might not have all the answers, but was able to kind of provide some sort of insight, or at least provide some sounding board, really. So I really enjoyed that, and that was one initiative that I enjoy doing. And I think mentorship is super important, that you touched on, Jane. And imposter syndrome, I felt it myself. You get it every so often, and as I've moved through my career ranks, transitioning to manager, and some of those points you touched on, the importance of working with your company to make sure that the skills are there for you and be supported, and if there's diversity inclusion training that you can go on or seek to go on, be it internally or externally, it's so important that you are open, and that's something that you seek as well. I find it so beneficial, the training that I've received as I transitioned into management, because you're faced with different conversations, both challenging and complexity that comes with that those skills are just indispensable to you. So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, tying it to training is really good, because it's completely valid to feel underqualified in an area. Like you will never know everything, and that's totally valid. But like separating that from the kind of feelings of should I even be here is like kind of really useful way of checking that feeling versus the fact that you're working against.
Yeah, like I think that's so important. And, we touch upon this. It's not like a stick to beat people with and say, you're not good enough. We need to educate. And I think, we actually it actually started out that we were just doing it with companies, and ultimately it turned into, we could actually, help our clients. So we actually set up another business called Aquaris that actually goes on site and helps define cultures, build cultures. It can actually do like anonymous surveys with businesses to understand what maybe they're doing well, what they're not doing so well. But it's so important, and we've seen so much, value and kind of benefit to the companies that we're dealing with. And like most of the companies, are trying to go down this route anyway. So it's so important. And I think what everyone forgets is that we're all on a journey, whether you're, a CTO, director of engineering, or you're a graduate. You just need that kind of helping hand somewhere along the line. So no, it's great to hear initiatives, and thanks for tying that in, Jessica, because we were about to move on to supports and mentorship. So thanks very much for that. So I might throw it back to Jane. So I know, and I actually know Springboard myself, within Ireland, it's brilliant. I actually know a couple of people that went on it. So it's obviously an area that could be so beneficial, for career changers or women looking to get into tech. So you could tell us a bit more about Springboard and obviously what they do.
Yeah, so Code Institute would do a lot of government-funded training programs, a bit like what Jessica was talking about earlier on, and some of those are Springboard and the localised ETBs, which are the educational training boards in Ireland. And in 2020, we launched a program specifically focused on trying to attract women, specifically women, into a tech career. And when we were planning this, there were certain kind of criteria that we were trying to work out as to how we could make it successful. And it was a pilot scheme. It's now a permanent scheme. So it went really well. And I was really lucky because I got to talk to a lot of the women who were on the program kind of at the beginning, during it, and after it. And I suppose the unique model was obviously, number one, that it was available to women only. Sorry, guys. And then this. And then anyway, moving on. And then there. And then the other part was that we had a lot of tech hiring kind of partners or tech businesses that were really supportive and really involved with it, and they tagged on a 3-month kind of work experience, placement that was part of the program. And interestingly, I suppose what came out in the wash during it and what we realized was that, we had these really incredible people who were well able to acquire this, and some of them have been hesitating because they had a certain amount of belief in themselves that they could do it, but they just didn't think it was realistic to think that the industry would embrace them, or that their CVs would stand up to the recruitment mark, or that there was any real hope of this actually progressing to, a paid career. They just thought, I could spend all this time and nothing will happen. So when the focus was on the female environment, they thought it'd be a bit more understanding of that. And also having that access to get onto site straight away was the major clincher for it, because they felt then that, at least when they were finished, they would have a very strong resume. And it really struck me at the time, because it was, they were all really, really valid points, but these people were so able, like they were so employable, they're really talented, really capable. And I just thought it was really sad. Like, there must be loads of people who would be well able to do this, and if they didn't happen to be in the right place at the right time to see a program of that sort of kind of format, maybe they wouldn't take just that last step. So it was interesting. Yeah, it was. It worked really well. We're rolling it out in other locations now this year, but it was just that last bit that just seemed to change it for a lot of people.
Like, I say this to everyone, and I'm sure everyone will agree, but there is that certain element of risk, and okay, will I go for it? What if I fail? Like, nothing ventured, nothing gained is my kind of motto in life. And I think, as you said, the supports are there. We need to do more to actually get people into the space within Ireland. Once you're in it, your career is going to skyrocket. And I think, particularly with Deloitte, because I know I've put a lot of people in there, and Jessica, probably the same with Launch Darkly, but there's no barriers to actually progression. If you do a good job, you will move up the channels. There's no like internal politics or anything like that. So, like, just on that, and I will be moving on to a poll in a second, but if there was someone on the fence, what would be your number one piece of advice? And I'll open the floor maybe with Julieanne there.
On the fence of a career and to jump in.
Yeah,
I just go for it. Yeah, like, I suppose it's kind of like how I've done it. I wanted to be a politician. I don't know if that would stand up today. I wanted to do politics, but no, to go for it. It's the door opens once you make that step and have confidence in yourself, and leverage your network, leverage the people around you, and just have faith and believe in yourself. Like, if I was to play back, like, I joined as an analyst. I tried development, wasn't for me. Became a tester, liked it. Then I got into BA, business analyst. Loved that. Loved talking to the business, translating the requirements between the technical architects and the developers, and then found my feet within project management. And I've been working in this space for the last 7 years. So I've jumped through different roles in my career with Deloitte so far, and I'm 10 years next week. So, just taking that step can be daunting. I've been there, but once you're in there and you're in a place that, you can see yourself growing and developing, just have faith and believe in yourself. And, there will be ups and downs, like there will be challenges like everyone faces, I suppose, in their career. And there will be moments you're like, God, what am I doing? But like, hold faith and keep moving. I think just do it. It's, when I left college, IT was booming in Ireland, and it still is. And there's so many different opportunities and different roles within IT that, people just need to try and see, does it work for them?
100%. Maybe Jessica, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. Two of them spring to mind. One is that every new experience is a new data point. It helps you make a better informed decision next time around. So if something isn't for you, that's great. You now know what potentially is for you, and that can kind of help you with your decision. So it's not a sort of having a bad experience can sometimes bruise you, but it can help you to kind of make a better informed decision next time around, and help you get to where you want to be. But also oh no, it's gone from my head. This is so frustrating. It was right there. Why does that happen?
I'll tell you what I'll do is Alfie, maybe if you want to share the second poll, and it might give you the time. So I'll just call it out there. So what do you believe is the most effective in improving hiring among women in tech? So we've obviously got include women in the hiring team, scrutinize job descriptions, avoid screening biases, and establish diversity goals. So we might come back and get the results there in a second. Maybe Jane, bit of advice.
Oh gosh, yeah. Look, I suppose I'm just a big believer in like hard work will never go unrewarded. You might kind of map out this perfect path, like break it down into stages. You're always going to be making progress, and you'll be really surprised at how quickly opportunities start opening when you're in the right place. So I suppose that would be a big piece. And really another one would be just like trust it. You don't overcomplicate this. Trust it. Like we're all fully aware there's a huge amount of opportunities. It's a really creative industry. Leave any conceptions you have at the door, go in, do a little bit of research, like look at a company where the people just seem cool, or seem like you would like to be in that environment and seem like they're supportive. Get the environment right. And then, don't put crazy pressure on yourself. You don't have to figure it all out overnight. You acquire some skills, take a step in, get your bearings, have a look around, surround yourself with good people, and the rest will figure itself out, or you'll figure it out much quicker. But I remember one time somebody saying to me, oh, am I a bit old? Am I a bit this? It could be here in a year's time, and then I'll be like in my 50s. And I was like, yeah, but you're going to be anyway. Like that year is going to come and it's going to pass, and this might just give you more options. So why not? Like, what have you got to lose?
Yeah, and and thanks very much for that. One thing that I've always kind of thought about, and even from graduates to senior people, if you're in doubt, like particularly within Ireland, but to be honest with you, like the culture within tech organizations, everyone's very like-minded anyway. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, add them and say, look, I have a question for you. Could you help me? Like if you ask for help in the world, you get positive vibes back. So, try and do your research, as you said, have conversations with people that are, in there, and they can tell you about it. And, we need to be doing this, like most hiring managers, it's priority for them over the next couple of years. So they will be more than happy to have conversations with you. And likewise on ourselves, because I know people don't know what their worth is in terms of what they should be going in salary wise, negotiation of contracts. Anyone that ever wants to reach out to, a consultant within Trust and Soda, our sister companies, obviously Broadgate or BioTalent in other areas, we're more than happy to let you know this is what the market is. I call it like the Goldilocks effect. You don't want to go in too low or too high. You just want to go in right and get the interview. So just ask for help and you'll get it. So I've gone overboard, but I don't really mind because we're having a good conversation there. So I'm going to open it up. Well, first of all, this is pretty interesting. It's kind of a mix. So I think we were right with our options there. So include women in the hiring team. Like it's obvious how many processes have we been in where, you don't see anyone other than, obviously, I'm going to say males, scrutinize job descriptions. Yeah. If you spot something, call it out. And funnily enough, this might sound strange, but I've read research on it. All human beings are naturally biased. So there is subconscious bias and unconscious bias. And, most businesses are working towards getting away from that. So that's pretty interesting as well. So I might open it out to obviously the esteemed audience that have joined, and thanks very much. So the question that came in there was actually a while ago, and look, it's something that I suppose we were chatting about for a while. Do you guys find imposter syndrome is even more prevalent in women due to the attitude towards females in tech by some men?
No, like I think everybody feels like it's not it's not unique. Like it's very often we run recruitment webinars quite a lot in Code, and we often ask them, and it's really funny. It's come up sometimes where the panelist who'd be like a tech, an engineer, hiring manager, decision maker, and was asked the question of like, what should I do about imposter syndrome? And his answer was like, oh, well, I still get it. Like I'm feeling it right now talking on this seminar, so it's manageable. But I think when you're doing something new, there are elements and variants and degrees that people feel this way. So I don't know if I'm qualified to say that it's more prevalent in women. I think it's just when you're doing something new, and in this conversation there's less women here, so it's new for more women. But yeah, it's something that you need to understand. It happens to everyone, but you got to break it down, and every time you overcome it, you'll get more confident with that when you get unfamiliar with that the next time it happens. I don't know, maybe Julieanne and Jessica disagree with me there.
No, I totally
agree.
agree.
Yeah.
I think we've got a tendency of telling women that they have imposter syndrome, and I think it comes from a very good place. I think it comes from a really good place of being like, no, you actually do belong in this space, which is excellent. And it's really good to kind of put a name to some of those feelings where you feel like a little bit singled out, and maybe that you feel like a bit underqualified and unsure of yourself. But those in themselves are very valid feelings without having to be dubbed imposter syndrome. So I think maybe like including having more open conversations about it, I think is really useful, because you're right, I think a lot of people do get it, and it's really nice to remember that imposter syndrome is something that hits just about everyone.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Julia? Oh, sorry.
I'll let Julieanne go.
No, I agree, and I think I still, personally, lots of different experience and obviously working within my team. I'm very focused on having a well-balanced team, a diverse team, in that and such. We're not, if I'm not always in meetings with just male participants and whatnot. So I think, everyone feels it at times. It's just, how we deal with it on an individual basis. But I would agree with Jessica and Jane's points there. It's not as prevalent as what I think it is in my industry, what the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah, 100%. So like, I do a lot of work on, disadvantaged areas. There's actually an initiative in Dublin called the NEIC program that we've been supporting for the last couple of years. And it's working with inner city students to try and break down the imposter syndrome. And I don't think that's gender focused that it can be. It can be socioeconomic, it can be just, family kind of track record of not going towards education. So I would strongly disagree with that it's gender based. I think, human beings, we naturally self-critique, particularly Irish people are probably our worst critics. But, I think no matter what level you're at, you will always feel like an imposter at some stage. Obviously, I'm very focused or into like sports reading and, reading about, managers and stuff like that. But it's quite prevalent even in sports stars that they arrive into, a dressing room and they say, I shouldn't be here. And it's the exact same with pretty much every job. There's that old saying, fake it till you make it. And I think once everyone realizes that the vast majority of the workforce in the world are doing that at some stage, if you're not coming out of your comfort zone and trying something that you actually don't know, you're not progressing. So that's ultimately what technology is, isn't it? We're all trying to figure it out. We're just problem solvers at the end of the day. So we either win or we learn. That's another cliche I'm going to use today. So
Love
now,
that.
look, so that's tied up nicely. I just want to, honestly thank each and every one of you. I've learned so much today. I think the events, Jessica, and actually being able to bring your kids is unbelievable. Julieanne, I think going in with the teachers is absolutely amazing, and actually setting them up for success and you know, I think, you know, I don't know what stage this is at, but we're probably talking about 3-4 years before we're going to see maybe the fruition of that. But, you know, that's a real life example of how we can actually drive change. And Jane, look, I know the amazing work that Code Institute is doing in terms of actually trying to improve, you know, the flow of talent and, you know, how accessible it is. I actually done one of the courses myself. So
Cool.
thanks very much for that. I was a guinea pig all those years ago. So I can vouch for, you know, someone that predominantly wasn't, you know, coding based. Like, funny enough, I actually did study civil engineering, so I had kind of engineering background, but it tailors to everyone. You know, the videos are so informative, and it's interactive and fun, and I think that's so important to try and tap into diverse talent. Is that, you know, you can do it in your own time. You know, the kids are in bed, or, you know, you come back from football training, whatever it is, you can sit down and do it. So I commend the work that you're doing, and I look forward to continuing the partnership. And obviously with yourself, Julieanne, if you ever need us to support any of the initiatives, I'm more than happy to do so at Chernobyl Group. So look, obviously just to tie up some obviously loose ends, thanks very much to the audience for joining in. As I said, I learned something, so I'm sure each and every one of you have some kind of takeaways. You know, each of us are actually going to be in a breakout room now, so if you have any questions, obviously on my side it's going to be very recruitment related. Jane, either recruitment related, should I say, or Code Institute focused, and then obviously Jessica with some of her initiatives, and Julieanne, I know Deloitte are hiring like mad, so if anyone's interested in joining the business, I can vouch for them. Just to let you know, as I said, this is recorded, so we'll be sharing it across our platforms. Join us, or I suppose join the community on our website. Join it on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever way you get your information. Just to let people know as well, we're very passionate about knowing, are we actually making an impact? So we will be releasing a survey. Please take the time to actually, you know, answer it. It's not going to take any more time. You can go and make your dinners or have a bottle of beer, whatever you like doing at this stage of the night. But now look, thanks very much. We can probably go to the breakout room now, and yeah, looking forward to seeing you at our next events in the future.
Thanks, Ronan.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thanks, Ronan.
Bye.
And just to let you know as well, the link to actually go to the breakout room is in the chat, just in case anyone doesn't know. So that would have been bad if we all left. So no, look, enjoy the evenings, and I'm excited to obviously see the Code Institute students on Saturday and the hackathon results. So hopefully that's ignited some sparks in the brain, and excited to see the applications that are made. So thank you.